as a listener.
Hello and welcome to another episode of O Faces. We're your host, Mr. Mocha and Chris Minx, and we also have Craig McKenny on today hanging out with us. We're going to get back to the same topic we've been speaking on for the last week now, which is the male emotion.
And as it relates in the lifestyle.
Yes, indeed. So, Chris, I'm going to let you pick up while I'm trying to figure this thing out.
Because they're probably wondering why I'm in studio with you for a third time. And I'm that house guest that just, showed up on an invite and I'm never leaving. I kind of keep lingering around. I actually had a follower ask if everything was okay with the Minx and I, because I thought maybe she threw me out and I had to come down and hang out down here with Mr. and Mrs. Mocha. But no, we're good. I actually had work in the area, and that work continued, and so I took another advantage of being able to sit here with my brother and continue on with this very interesting conversation. So that's what brings me back tonight for another in-studio opportunity here. We're working through our technical issues. I am not an expert on getting into these spaces, so I've actually given my phone over to Mr. Mocha, let him drive.
Yeah, you talk while I drive. Craig, where you at, man? Where you at? Get in here and say hi to the people.
Craig? Are you hearing anything? Is Craig responding to you?
No, he's
okay.
He's still trying to figure it out.
Okay, I was just making sure that
there he is.
I got it.
Oh, see, that's
it's your first time.
Turn my mic on.
Your first time, huh?
Hey, co-hosting, yeah, man. First time co-hosting, but yeah.
Okay.
I forgot to turn the mic on.
Right. I won't judge you too poorly this time.
Good. It's been a long day, man. It's been a long day. I just came off vacation, and I got the little Hito brain going, but everything is good. How y'all all doing, man?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Cannot complain. It's been a good week. I've been hanging out with my boy Chris here, so it's always fun when you're hanging out with friends.
I'm gonna complain because he keeps giving me the bad headset, so I can't ever hear anything.
Well, listen, somebody's got to get this shitty headset. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to get it.
We actually talked about he'd get his Amazon wish list up. Maybe some generous benefactor out there would get them some good headsets, and then they could leave these bad ones to the guests.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we're gonna have to do something about that.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Now I can hear you, Craig. Welcome. Nice to hear your voice.
Thanks a lot, man. Good to hear from you too.
Listen, brother, I actually was listening to the podcast from Splash Mocha Houston, that the Dirty Girls Corner, where apparently you made a late appearance in the recording session, and once again these women they were talking about that ass of yours. And in this conversation, if you have not taken a minute to listen to that podcast, it was absolute one of those laugh your ass off funny shit shows, because there was so much going on in this room and nobody would stick with the microphone. So they'd be saying something very erudite, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they fade off into the distance. My Minx was on that one. Angel was teasing you about your butt, and she was talking about how special your ass is, according to her. I'm not saying that. I'm quoting her. And then all of a sudden, she trails off at the end of the microphone, and nobody hears about your super sensitive ass. And then the next thing I know, they're talking about your dick, and they're talking about your hat, and all your marquee stuff just points to, and you sounded like you're trying to be a victim. And I was not.
I am a victim.
Yeah, that's me.
What did you do?
That's my fault. I pushed the button. My bad. Listen.
My hair's curling now.
Hey,
I can't figure that out.
Let me tell you what happens as you bring that up. So, I was in Hito, and so if you've been to Hito, you know how you walk down that pool. And there's a little pool, but the steps go down. But up on the side on the left, there's a hot tub. It's all cool water with the regular pool temperature, but there's a hot tub up there, right? So I was standing there talking to him, my butt was facing, and every woman that walked past grabbed my butt or smacked my butt or something like that. One girl cupped it and was like, "Oh my God, it's just so perfect. You got a nice little butt." Man, I couldn't. So all week people were smacking my butt and touching my butt and everything. Man, it was crazy.
So it literally was sensitive.
What'd you say?
I said it literally was very sensitive, your butt that day.
Oh yeah, it was very sensitive, man.
I'll keep all my
almost
jokes.
had to tell people, hey, I'm not a piece of meat. You know, my butt is sensitive.
Yet your marketing seems to be about, I am a piece of meat. Love me.
I gotta get Danny to make me one of those hats.
Listen, I market the meat, not the cheeks. All right. So we invited Craig on as another gentleman who have some perspective. So the male emotion is a conversation that was important because the way the male emotion relates to the lifestyle. I had a great conversation with a friend earlier, and what we discussed was basically that whoever you are as an individual, whoever you are emotionally, is always going to spill into your relationships. And, that's friendship, relationship with your friends, coworkers, parents. And then, of course, it spills into the lifestyle because, although we can call the lifestyle like an alternate reality sometimes, who you are is who you are. And, the person you are is a person that spills into every aspect of your life. And, there's a thing that we've consistently spoke of, and it's the male emotion. As men, we've been taught from a very early age to, suck it up, don't complain, keep your emotions to yourself. However, one of the things that I've been seeing in conversation with, couples, guys, is that not expressing those emotions and not finding a healthy outlet for the male emotion tends to create issues, within the lifestyle. And we're not just talking about it from the standpoint of, some guy's an asshole. We're talking about it from the standpoint of, men have insecurities just like ladies do. There's a lot of gentlemen who suffer with, self-confidence issues. There's a lot of gentlemen who, they're angry outside and, they bring their aggression and anger into it. So there's so many different ways that, not managing your emotions, can affect the lifestyle. So before I start going, we're going to start with Chris, and then we're going to work over to Craig, because, Chris had a few things that he wanted to tackle.
I was thinking about this since our last episode, and when do men mismanage their emotions the most? When do we make irrational, not logical statements or considerations? It's usually pre-nut, right? When our little head is thinking more than our big head is. And that level of horniness, especially if it's been a few days or maybe a few weeks or even longer for some of us, it becomes that overriding thought, and that enthusiasm, you make irrational, emotionally laden statements that could be offensive, could be off-putting. You don't mean them that way, but by God, you can really ruin the energy of a moment by saying the wrong thing in that exuberance. Now, that same vein, when are we most clear? When are we most logically, as men, the best thinkers and in control of our emotions, or that management of that emotion? Well, post-nut, right? Yeah. Post-nut. Well, let's be honest.
Full system reboot.
10 to 15, 20 minutes after post-nut, right? Because after post-nut, you're like, leave me.
Yeah.
Go on without me. I'm not going anywhere.
I always thought like as soon as you come, it's like a full brain reboot.
Yeah.
You've
transferred your life force to your partner, and you're left as a husk. Your brain's got to reboot before it can get back on.
Yeah.
All systems shut down.
And this is how every dude will understand this statement. Like when your dick's made you make a decision it shouldn't make, and then it's like literally as you're coming, like oh no, like literally as soon as it's expelled, it's like common sense just floods back in. Like fuck. That's really what it is. So yeah.
So when you do that self-assessment, guys, and you think about the incidences when you've said something that didn't go the way you wanted it to or wasn't received the way you intended it to, look back. Were you speaking from a moment when your emotional management control system was at its weakest point, and you were purely being driven by that desire to have an expulsion of your nut, right?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, and you know that's a trait of yours, maybe release the nut before you go out, or a couple hours before, or the day before. Take some of that pressure off. Don't go in a couple days backed up and say something stupid that could ever ruin a relationship.
You're even during like interactions, because you know the guest who came on last night and spoke about a situation where a guy was super, like, he presumed too much. You know, he's never met her. He's online saying, I'm going to slut you out. I want to do this, do that. And I'm pretty sure, you know, he's looking at her pictures. He's chatting with her, and his dick is typing. Like, his dick is doing all the typing for him. So, you know something, buddy, before you have a conversation with somebody.
Yo, say this.
Yeah.
You're gonna love this. Right? The whole conversation in your head from down below. Hey.
And that's literally what the penis is. It's a constant bad influence. It's always, because ladies, I can promise you this. From a male standpoint, when a man's dick is hard and he's walking around the club or he's messaging you, if the things that his brain was thinking hadn't run through a complete filtration system, you'd think we were all fucking morons. I mean, how many layers of filtering, Craig, how many layers of filtering when you see a woman does from the brain to your mouth? How many levels of filtering do you think there is? Like, how filtered is your conversation?
Oh, man. You know, it depends upon the situation, too, man, because I'm going to tell you, like, at work, I am completely opposite from what a lot of people know me to be. You know what I mean? And I kind of have to hold things in. So, but I won't, I'm a people watcher. You know what I mean? So, yes, when I see people walk by, I'm like, man, you know, and I start to thinking and I think, but, you know, like I said, man, I have to hold my tongue. So, thankfully, I have that. Now, there are times where I do have to release that before I go to work, as Chris was mentioning, y'all was just saying, you know. But there's times, man. A lot of times I work at 3:00 in the morning. I ain't got time to work up and get that out. But you know, so I have to keep my mental sharpness and not let that dick be on my shoulder like the angel and demon, and say, yo, man, you got to keep this in, you know. But as far as how many layers. Yeah, from toe up to head, man. Toe up to head. There's at least three of them. You know, damn, look at that ass. Damn, look at them titties and her face, you know, and her hair. Man, she got nice lips. You know, so at least three. It's you know, at least.
It's like that the comment bubble over your head, right?
Yeah.
That everybody else can read what you're actually saying, right? You're like, oh, God, I hope nobody actually hears or reads these.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Like, you know, it's that thought, like you walk up to a woman and, you know, you're in a lifestyle event and, you know, you're like, hey, how are you? My name is Mr. Mocha. And you're really thinking, I want to fuck. like your brain is totally saying something different. Like, you're like in your mind, you're like completely disrobing her, but you're like having this conversation like, hey, it's nice to meet you. You know, oh, that's your husband. Nice to meet him too. You know, you're like, hey, can your wife suck my dick real quick? Like your brain is thinking that, but none of that stuff actually gets out. So yeah, Chris, I'm definitely going to give you a whole lot of points on that assessment of the male brain because yes. Yeah.
Because that's the management control system is the male brain, but the small brain takes over in critical times.
Oh my God. Unfortunately.
Right. Unfortunately.
So you were gonna go with I think you were gonna hint at what I'd mentioned to you last night.
You put it out there, man.
You about my dream and waking up. Is that where you were going with that? You weren't. Never mind.
Now, listen. Well, in that case, go ahead and share.
No. I'm gonna because before we got to that, I wanted to introduce this other thought. Right. As we go through our day, men, we are very good at whatever our real world life is, right? In managing our emotions through the day, in your workplace, in your home, in your social relationships, those normal waking hours, there is so much stimulus coming into your head and your brain. And it can be overwhelming at times, yet we all function at a very high competent level. Okay, that's the beauty of our brains. But when we lay down at night to rest and let our bodies reboot, that critical time, our subconscious takes over right? So all day long, you've been managing your emotions and your day and all that input. But at night, that brain shuts down and the subconscious mind takes over. And it starts clearing all of the garbage from the day, all the files, putting them away. Some goes in long-term memory. Some stuff goes in short-term memory. Some of it's just discarded. Some of those dirty thoughts, you're like, save that for my spank bank later, right? That hot lady you saw at work, Craig, you're like, man, right? But your subconscious is working through all of that and clearing these things. But as it's going through that, a lot of those emotions that we curbed, we curtailed, we didn't express, now are released in our subconscious mind and dealt with. So the other night, I was dead asleep, finally, and I woke up to the alarm, dreaming about Mrs. Minx. Angel was in a bathroom, and it was a clear glass bathroom, shower, and all I could see was the wall was all steamed up and her tits were smashed up against the glass, and then it'd be her cheek, and then it would be her ass would be smashed up against it, and all of these erotic sounds of her moans and her squeals of pleasure were coming through this. And I woke up I couldn't even make out who the man was in the shower with her, but she was just this constant pressing of flesh against this wet, soapy glass wall, right? And I wake up jealous. And I'm like, what am I jealous about? And so as I'm going through my morning routine, I'm working that through my head now, because we've been talking about the male emotions. And I just had this male emotion of jealousy, and I'm not the jealous type. Very little jealousy in my body, right? But I actually felt jealousy, this one. And so I was working through why and how am I going to, because this was a dream. This was nothing that the Minx did. She wasn't even around, right? I haven't seen her in 4 days. I mean, wasn't like something that was fresh in my head, but my brain threw it out there and I had to deal with it. And then I was going through it, I was kind of talking to myself about it. And I'm like, okay, what was I jealous about? And what I was actually came to my realization was that I was jealous that I didn't get invited into the bathroom, that I had to fight my way in through this door to be able to see what I already enjoy watching or hearing, right? So I was jealous of that. So I bring it to Mr. Mocha here, and I share with him this concept, and he goes, I don't think that's jealousy. He goes, you weren't jealous. I said, well, what was it? He goes, I don't think it was jealous. And then we got interrupted by another phone call. So I then was rethinking it after I got off the phone with him, and I thought, maybe envy. Another emotion. One of those 7 deadly sins, envy, right? And so then, okay, maybe I was envious that I wasn't invited into the scene, into that bathroom.
Yeah, see, I was thinking that because you weren't upset that she was actually having sex.
Right.
You're envious that you weren't invited into the bathroom, which I will say. Now, Mrs. Mocha's on the line. All right, so let me be careful.
I think Mrs. Minx is too, as I see.
Yeah, I'm going to be careful with my next few statements since I, want to get some ass tonight. So, had I got some sex from her pre-podcast, I'd say what the fuck I want to say. Okay, but I haven't gotten it yet. So, I was
next time you gotta let the brain reboot before.
Exactly. I should have got some first. So I was saying to Chris at first, like, that was very interesting because, we talked yesterday about sometimes, as dudes, it's a conscious effort. Like when the guy tells you something that you don't emotionally agree with, for you to be like, what the fuck? Like it's a thing, because here's the thing. I've never woken up to a dream of being jealous of Mrs. Mocha. So in my mind, like, does that happen? And then I realized, or even envious. But then, I can recall Mrs. Mocha waking up and, working through her emotions because she's had a dream about something that, that I've done. So, like, I never thought, which it does make sense when it, as a guy to do it. But I will say with Chris, I was impressed where, he worked through that emotion, because then it kind of took me back in my head to a lot of conversations I've had with a lot of guys who get very jealous. And they cannot figure out how to deal with their jealousy. And usually it explodes through at a party, it explodes through, at their wife, it explodes through, when you and your wife are playing with them and their wife, and your wife have to tap you because the dude's crying. It's weird stuff like that happens. It shows up in different places. And so, Craig, as a single guy in the lifestyle, all right, what is your experience dealing with the emotions of, let's say, the male within the couple that you've played with? What kind of experiences have you had?
Hold up. Before I get into that, I want to say it's funny that you guys talk about this because, I don't deal with that couple side of it as much, but I do have a friend, and I know her husband has said she's woken up from dreams to her hitting him because she's angry at something that he did in her dream, so. So I mean, there's, like you said, it's the gauntlet of those 7 deadly sins. You got your envy, your greed, and now you got your anger on that as well. Because she's woken up, just looked at him and smacked, and he's like, "What the hell did I do?" For nothing that he's
actually done in real life.
Right. So it's great that you kind of worked it out and was like, "Hey, I about it, and I think it's a little envious. I'm not jealous at all, but it's that I wasn't invited in, even though you couldn't have been, because I guess you could have been because you were in a dream, but in reality, you weren't fully invited. So, but getting back, I guess I really don't. It's kind of hard to say because I'm not inside the couple's thoughts. I deal with couples on a limited basis,
Let me rephrase that question. I'll rephrase that.
Okay.
Have you been in any situations with the couples that you've played with where you've seen a husband struggle with his emotions, while interacting, while chatting, while in a social situation? Have you been in a situation where you've seen a husband struggle with his emotions?
Yeah, of course. I think I've seen people who you see them in situations where the wife is getting all the attention, and especially when I go to places like Hito, where Hito is more couples related. That I didn't even know until recently. I was trying to set something up. They have a single guy quota that they won't pass. They only allow a certain amount of single males there. So if more couples related than it is single male. And yeah, I've seen people, and I've been in situations where the husband wasn't getting as much attention, and then it causes a fight later on. So the can do is just try to separate yourself, let them go work that out and do something else. But of course, I've seen that situation happen.
Have you had that fight occur in the middle of a playing session, or when it's just the 3 of you and they break into a fight?
I have. I have actually. That's happened a couple times. The most infamous one, I was at a 2-hour party a couple years ago, and this guy kept pushing his wife, and you could tell they were kind of new into everything, and telling her he wanted her to do this, and so she was there along with the ride. And, it was their first party. Me and Craig, I'm like, hey, how you doing? Da, 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 da. We ended up in a room playing and everything, and I'm wearing this girl out, man. I mean, wearing her out, and he was comfortable. And the dude got up and left after a while. And I was like, yo, is everything okay? She's like, nope. So I don't know why I didn't, but I kept going.
Oh, you know why you didn't. It was the dick.
But I asked
the little head was making decisions.
Right, that little
took over.
Get that release out. Right. So, but I stopped. I was like, yo, is everything all right? You need to go after him. What? And unfortunately, again, I say, no, you know what? Why don't you go and take care of him? You go, if everything, you can come back. We have another day if something happens, but I didn't, and never saw that couple again. Never don't know what happened to them, anything. But yeah, that's happened a couple times. We're in the middle of play, something is going down.
Mm. And hold on. I think, wife, are you on? I see that you just.
I'm here.
Okay. I didn't know.
Were you going to ask her something, or are you just gauging what you're going to say?
No, I'm just trying to make sure she didn't hear me talking shit about her and is getting on and giving you
that was the look you
a verbal thumping right now.
No, I was just thinking about the time because I think Craig said somebody hit somebody, waking up hitting somebody. I woke up and hit Mr. Mocha several times, but it was never because of like a jealous dream. It was because I was having nightmares. Somebody was doing something to our kids, so I can't relate to that one.
I'm pretty sure she faked that dream because it took her she got in way too many hits for it to be a dream. Like she
wake up. I'm not waking up.
She gave me 6 combos. I'm sure I saw one eye open up real quick to see if she was on her mark. So I'm just,
you kept tapping her. She wasn't stopping him.
I was just listening. I heard what you guys were talking about, like jealous dreams. Yeah, I don't think Mr. Mocha's that I know of. If he did have an issue, I don't think he would. I don't even know that he would tell me if he had a dream that made him jealous. I think his nightmares are more that like I leave him or something, or we like separate. If we're just being vulnerable here,
right.
Yeah, I mean that's something that would scare me.
I probably had those types of dreams too, and I was only focusing on this one because waking up and having a feeling and knowing this is a topic that we've now been discussing for 3 days. Mm-hmm. I was like, wait a minute, that's weird. That's unique. I haven't had anything like that in a while.
Yeah,
and what brought that on? Then I'm trying to break it down, and kind of see.
It could have been a sign that you just missed her. Like it was subliminal. We've been talking about this stuff for the past 4 or 5 days, so it could just be
my subconscious. My subconscious
exactly.
Working through that and saying, you know what, you miss her, because I did have a very romantic conversation with her later that day when I finally did get to talk to her.
Yeah, very nice.
And I just got to say, hey, maybe I miss you. And luckily, she said she missed.
Yeah, she said she missed you back.
She missed me back. Yeah, that was you put it out there. You got to be vulnerable, guys. Give them a shot.
Yeah, that is the thing. And Mrs. Mocha, I will say this, which is
Mocha.
Mrs. Mocha, my love. I will say that that is true because I just thought about that. I have had dreams about her leaving me, and you want to hear the funny thing about it? It's the only time in my dream she's ever left me is when I did something stupid. So I'm not afraid of her leaving me for the sake of leaving me. I'm afraid of her leaving me because I did something stupid.
Right. It's guilt.
Yeah, it's guilt. Like it's like
I was about to say that tell anybody anything that he might do a lot of stupid things that I get mad about.
Yeah. It's like, man,
that means
Dick, don't get us in trouble, buddy. Please don't get us in trouble, Dick.
I can say there's only been I can count on one time how pissed off I was at him, and he apologized immediately, but he continued to let me rant about it because he knew how pissed I was, which is not normal. Normally it's like, I apologize, let's not talk about it anymore. But those few times he let me freaking talk. And I'm not saying that he doesn't normally let me talk, but he's like, what did you say? Don't beat a dead horse. I said, I was sorry, whatever. It's just something smaller, but it was something in my mind that was major. And we talked about it, and I told him that's a big deal to me. Think about it. If the shoe was on the other foot, or whatever the situation was at the time. But yeah, that's the only time I can really be mad at him, is if he does something really, really dumb.
And
it's usually it's usually something dumb, like a milestone that we've never done together, and he did with somebody else maybe, or something we didn't really talk about. So it was more shock.
Yeah. And see, emotionally, the problem that we've always run into is I'd always have the issue where it's if I don't mind you doing it, then I'll do it. But I learned that it doesn't work like that. Just because I'm okay with her doing a thing, if she's not okay with me doing that thing, we have to discuss it. And emotionally, a lot of my failures emotionally with us when we first got together was just being too not being sensitive to her feelings in certain areas, and like she said, for the most part, like with us, if we have a disagreement, like if I'm wrong and it's a mild infraction, I'll say, like, I don't fight if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Like, so I'm like, all right, you're right, I'm wrong, I won't do it again. And then she wants to continue to tell me 47 other reasons why I'm wrong for doing that. And I'm like, no, I get it, I'm wrong, you win, let it go. That's for mild infractions. However, on the occasion when I've done stuff that was like, this really hurt her feelings, you really fucked up. I mean, when I say fucked up, it was like what we call fuck up is not necessarily what other people call fucked up. Fuck up, never, like any indiscretions or anything like that. It's just, either taking a liberty that I thought I was okay to take, or not communicating well, and then looking back on it and saying, yes, thinking with my penis.
Thinking with your dick.
I mean, listen, we all go through it, we all learn, and I will say for me, it was always a lack of sensitivity that would get me in trouble. And, my wife has one weapon, and she uses it perfectly. Like, if she starts to cry, then I pretty much lose. Like, I can't, because she don't do it often.
I was about to say, I don't even.
Yeah, she don't cry often. So if she start tearing up, you got my attention.
If I tear up, that means it was like a relief. Otherwise, if I'm not tearing up, then it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be mad at you, but I'm not really going to like freak out for 5 days about this.
Yeah.
So, Craig, I want to ask you, and this is going to be to single guys, but without a partner that you can have these jealous or emotions to work through, get triggered and then work through. Do you know of any single guys who get jealous of other single guys who might get an opportunity to be with somebody that they would really like to be with, but they've never had the opportunity? Or again, I say jealousy, but maybe envy. But do they ever express that emotion that, man, I've tried for 3 times to get with her, and she won't even give me the time of day, and it just pisses me off. Somebody should put her in her place. Do the single guys ever deal with that emotion? And if so, how do they deal? Do they talk amongst themselves or what?
Yeah, I mean, again, of course. I mean, I'm gonna be quite honest with you, man. Me and Nick room together, and Nick. If you know Nick, I have friends that call him Nick the Dick. Nick has this fucking huge ass, massive dick. He's a good looking dude. He's a good looking dude, and he posts his picture, and women are all over his ass, And I'm kind of not completely opposite, but I'm opposite. I don't have this huge, massive ass dick, but there's women I see Nick play with, and we room together almost every splash, and I'm looking, I'm like, God damn, I want to play with her, but I can't get the time of day from this chick, So yeah, there is a little bit of envy going on and everything, but we really don't talk about it, and I don't have. I'm not like I don't walk in there and I'm dry bone. I get my plenty fair share of women. So I don't. We don't really talk about it. But if I may say, hey man, damn, you played with her. I've really been wanting to play with her, and he'll put in a word for me. But I think what you see is on the other end. You see a lot of guys that play with the woman and try to keep them by herself. It's like, nope. You're mine now, especially for the single dudes. It's like, and I know a girl who comes to Splash, and it's like she was telling me about somebody. It was like, yo, this is, and she was telling me all about it. I was like, yo, that's crazy. That's for your husband. He just you supposed to play with her and just keep it moving. Yeah, y'all can have a special relationship, but that's a mutual thing. But you can't be mad because the husband is saying this or that. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of single dudes that try to lock up the woman and be like, nope, this is mine now. You need permission to do this. You got to talk to me before you talk to her. Yep.
And very emotional about it.
Yep.
Not today.
Yeah.
I think you see that more than the other side.
Wait, hold on.
Of course, both of them.
Now listen, we keep it 100% here. You mean to tell me you ain't never heard the guy who was trying to get with a certain woman and she didn't, and when it's just the fellas, he ain't like, fuck that bitch? I know you've heard that.
Of course.
I know you heard that super sensitive, I'm entitled to the pussy, because I have seen that particular thing a lot where guys are, it's one thing like with my boys, if my boys come up to me like, oh man, you play with her, I want to play with her. But like when a dude I don't know walks up to me and starts, asking me about, oh man, she played with you, I've been trying to play with her for 2 years. Like, hey man, get the fuck out of my face. You're making it weird. Like,
right.
It's
it's a reason why you ain't played with her in 2 years.
Yeah. Like how many times have I seen some woman who's playing with somebody? Like I didn't walk up to the guy and start asking, hey bro, she let you hit that? I don't know why she didn't let me hit it. Like I'm not entitled to the pussy. And it's like, it's
right.
And I've seen that a lot. And that's one of the things that, when you're exploring, like what part of your psyche or your emotion makes you go to an event? I mean, we had a party, one of our house parties in Atlanta. I had to ban a guy from the parties because he come to the party and the only woman he wanted to play with was the two at the party who didn't want to play with him. He followed them around. He talked to them. He tried to corner them. He talked to their husband. He walk upstairs. Hey, Mr. Mocha, man, I just don't understand why so-and-so don't want to fuck me. And I be like, hey, man, all these women in here and you worried about, there's 20 women here and there's 2 that won't play with you. Well, I just don't understand why she playing with the other dudes. Hey, man, you can't come back. You can't come back. Like you just that's something that always intrigues me. Like what makes guys think? And if there's any ladies on here who's experienced that, by all means, please jump in and share that experience and tell me how you've dealt with it and how you've handled it. Chris?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was getting a message. I figured out our technical issue on why you couldn't get me to co-host. Because you sent it to Angel. She's hard liquor A.
Something.
Hard liquor A2.
I was over there what the fuck is going on? Like, why?
So it wasn't me who had the error.
It was me. It's my wife's fault. She's not down here.
Pointing that out to me.
Chris Minx.
I mean, honey, I have a problem with my eyes.
And he has a picture of her in black, and it's him.
Mrs. Mocha, this just means I'm going to have to stay another night and do this.
To train me.
To give him, we just need him for more practice for him.
For training purposes. I appreciate that.
How long people say.
So actually, don't hit that button because it's going to mess up.
I'm not touching it. No, I'm not touching it. In the South, if those of you are in the South, there's a phrase that everybody likes to say, bless his heart.
Yeah, that's...
We don't say that in the South, Chris.
Oh, yes, you do. Oh.
No, I've never said bless his heart, ever.
You don't say it.
No, that was me. I was blessing his heart.
My wife touches me on the face. When I say something stupid, my wife will pet me on the face. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that you're cute to me.
No, I say you're so pretty.
Oh, something to that effect.
I pet you and say you're so pretty, honey. But you do the same thing to me whenever I'm saying something dumb.
I don't say the words. I just pet you on the head and smile. Just look at you, because I know that if I say the words,
well say that.
Listen, I can just play it off as a loving gesture from your loving husband. Even though I have a hard time.
I can hear her fuming from upstairs. Tread lightly, my friend.
Listen, I know how far I can go before I'm out of ass for the night, so I got about 5 more points left.
It's like the video game lives. They're hanging over his head here. Every time one point goes, like,
yeah,
dude.
I'm aware of my point system here. I know how far to take this thing.
But going back to what you said about like being cornered by a guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's happened to me several times.
Mm-hmm.
And guys only do it whenever they know Mr. Mocha has walked away, because I'm way too nice. And I usually do not even tell Mr. Mocha that it's happened until he is
Until we're on the plane.
Yeah. Out of arm's reach.
Until we're like far away from what has happened. But I have gotten better. But yes, that's super annoying, guys. Don't do that. I mean, even if somebody's seeing, I think we said it on the girls podcast, somebody said it on there, like, just because I'm talking to you doesn't mean I'm going to fuck you.
Yes, that simple gesture of pleasantry and friendship is often misconstrued.
Indeed.
I know Mrs. Minx gets that a lot.
Yeah.
She's very friendly. She will talk to everybody. In fact, she will talk unless somebody just says, okay, I'm done listening to you talk. Let's go fuck. Right? Because she will talk and talk and talk. She loves to get to know people.
Sounds familiar, honey?
I can't hear you.
Oh, you heard me. Oh, you heard me. You see how she just tried to pull one? She tried to use one of my tactics on me.
She tried a Jedi mind trick.
That's my tactic. She's selective hearing.
She's learning.
Yeah, she does. All right. So,
I think it's.
Go ahead.
I think it's interesting what you said too, though, about the two guys at the party that they're only for these certain women and won't do anything. I don't get that mentality at all, man. You miss out on so much, and I get it. It's kind of like that we was talking about at the last splash, that fuck lust. I get the fuck lust, but I mean, because you got the lust doesn't mean the other person is lusting as well. So I mean, you make it known. And sometimes it's just subtle things. Like there's a splash attendee who a couple years ago when I first met her, we just were standing around talking. It wasn't any interest in the two of us at all, and it was just, we just was talking, and we talked for like 40 minutes just in the kitchen, laughing, joking and playing and talking and having a great time. Then I turned around and looked at her and said, "You want to go play?" And she was like, "Yeah, let's go." And and I asked her afterwards, before we started talking, she had no inclination at all who was going to play with me. It wasn't going to happen at anything. And now we are like the best of friends, but I just can't understand that mentality of going to a place and only looking to play with certain people and limiting your options for everything.
Mm-hmm. And in the case of the guy who came to the party, if they had wanted to play with him, he probably wouldn't have chosen them. He only wanted them because he couldn't have them. And that is the thing that always gets me. It's like, I have never ever, if there's a woman who I'm interested in and I tell her I'm interested and she doesn't want to play with me, at that point, I don't want to play with her because she's not going to enjoy herself. What's the point if you can't share an experience? But, you get guys who are trying to convince women, like you're trying to convince women who don't want to play with you to play with you. That part I can't understand. It's just, why would I do that?
Right.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to enjoy themselves when they do it. But again, there's some guys that understand they're there for themselves. They have that narcissistic personality that they are there for their pleasure. And these women are there to pleasure him. There's those people in society, and they've got to show up for these special events because, again, like I used the other night, they're fishing in a small pond, a stocked pond, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, hey, this is a trapped audience. I am here for my pleasure, whether she wants to or not. So some guys will just wear women down. I've seen that happen a lot.
Yes.
Just over and over and over until they finally just to make them stop. Okay. Right. And then all of a sudden they're like, it was not pleasurable at all.
And
he's
that's
walking
crazy.
around and he's going and he's telling his guys, man, guess what I just did? You know how good that was? Man, I gave her the best dick she had the whole weekend, right? And that's the guy walking around bragging.
Yeah. Sad but true.
Yeah.
And that is crazy because I have seen women get worn, like some guy wears her down, and it's just she finally gives in and says yes, and it's like, holy shit, who does that? All right, so we're gonna go to the comments. Ginger, if you keep flirting with me, I'm gonna have to come back to Florida. This is one of my favorite people. She's saying some flirty stuff. I'm gonna have to call you after the show and I'm gonna have to talk to my people upstairs about a trip. And then we had is that Ken?
Ken, and I just asked him what his question was.
Oh, okay, there you go.
We'll give him a minute to see what he wants to ask his question. Unless, Ken, you want to type your question, we're happy to have you type the question, or did you want to verbally ask the question?
Johnny Bravo, look at there.
Hey, Johnny Bravo. Long time no see, my friend.
Oh. So, the whole concept of male emotion is always a tricky one, I think. While we're waiting for a question, it's tricky because in every aspect, since guys who have the emotions, dealing with jealousy, dealing with insecurities, dealing with the thought that, I think a lot of times when guys get that rejection, I think that makes some guys a little more aggressive. They got rejected by one woman, so now they got to try harder for somebody else. So,
they want to try and save face, right? They've been rejected, so now they feel, I gotta step up. I gotta be more manly. They can make them more aggressive because they're just trying to save face, not be embarrassed.
Or in the case like those two guys at the party, I got rejected. Now I have to try harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and what does that do for you? I think
I literally was about to say that. Like, what? Why are you trying harder? You're trying harder to get rejected?
Listen, I know a guy, and it was like Mr. Mocha just said. They try, and then it wears some girls down. Maybe if I do this, he'll leave me alone. And I know a couple women who have done that, and I look and I'm like, why would you do that? Just you talk to somebody else. We'll do everything we can, but don't wear yourself down and let him break you down to where you do it. And then now fortunately they've left him alone, but that's the wrong way to deal with that situation, unfortunately.
Yeah. Or what about the guys who get rude when they get rejected? What about those guys? Like they get mean or they get rude when they're rejected.
Mr. Mocha.
Yes, my love.
There's a question there for Craig.
From
Chris Minx is not paying attention.
Well, no, because you see where you left the cursor? That you have that.
It says no questions. Craig, what's your game plan to handling the emotions that come up when you feel rejected? There you go.
Thank you, my love. That's for you, Craig.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question?
Wake up, Craig.
I was scrolling through the comments.
Bro, I said it so nicely. I said, Craig, what's your game plan to handling the emotions that come up when you feel rejected?
You know what's weird, and like you said, we gonna keep it 100. I don't really pursue a lot of women, and not to make it sound arrogant or anything like that. The reason why I don't pursue a lot of women is because I don't like the rejection. It's hard for me to handle that rejection. And I don't know. It's not that I can't. I'm not going to be like Mr. Mocha just said and get angry about things. But I don't know. It's just hard for me to approach somebody and be like, hey, I'm really interested, da 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 da, and be like, I'm not really interested in you. It's hard for me to accept that. So that's why you get Craig on full blast a lot of times where I'm just laughing and joking because I understand my personality draws a lot of people in. So if you are somebody that is attracted by my personality and my outgoingness and being so friendly, and that draws you closer, then, you know, I have a connection with you rather than trying to go out and create a connection and end up being rejected, if that makes sense.
If you are rejected.
Yeah, how do you know you're going to be rejected, Craig, if you don't ask?
That's a valid point. That's a valid point. It's just that fear of being rejected, you know. That fear is huge to me, man. It really is huge. But I will tell you an incident that just happened to me. Now I get rejected on the content side kind of frequently, you know, but that's for whatever reason it is, you know, whether I don't have enough followers, I'm not big enough name, blah, blah, whatever it is, you know. I tell you one incident that happened to me, but it's easier content wise for me. I had a woman that I reached out to. She said on her page, collabs, DM for collabs. I was like, okay. So I DM'd her. Took me a while to get up the nerve to DM her. DM'd her and she was like, you only have blah, blah, blah amount of followers. If you want to shoot with me, it's going to be $2,500. I was like, wow. So it took me like 2 days to make a response. And it was a very cerebral response, you know? So it was like, there's a reason why I only have a few. I just started out. I've been doing this for a long time, but I just started out. If you want references, I could have given you references, da, 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 da. Thank you so much for reading my response, and I hope you have a nice day. You know, I'm not that angry type of person. I'm more of a cerebral person. I don't react. You know, I like to think before I react. And it's gotten me, you know, a lot of respect in different ways. So I try not to ever react out of anger. There's somebody for everybody, and I'm just not for that person is the way I look at it, you know?
That was a great response in that situation, too. I mean, that was really, really well handled. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I like that.
Yeah. There's no need. I mean, again, it's I'm not for that person. So, you know, I just thank you. What is getting mad going to do about it? And we see it all the time where somebody will say, you know, if I don't want to shoot with you, don't get angry about it. Don't call me a bitch. You didn't think I was a bitch before you wanted to shoot with me. You didn't think I was ugly. You know, you didn't think I was ugly before you tried to pull that dick out, you know? So why am I ugly now? Because I rejected you.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, you just take it in stride. I wasn't for you at that time or whatever. And you just, you know, you just got to pack it up and say, hey, it's cool and move along. There's somebody else down the line that'll be interested in you.
And Craig, did you have to learn to come to this cerebral response in handling that rejected anger, or is this just in your nature is how you handle that always?
It's just in my nature, man. I'm a very very laid back type of person, you know, like, even growing up, I just was a person where my sister was more reactionary. She always would lose her shit. You know, I'm not that way. It takes a lot to make me angry, you know, and it takes sometimes 2-3 chances. And after that third chance, it's like, oh, fuck you, you know, fuck you, you know, but it's just me, man. I just never was a type of person that would snap after one thing. So it's just always been me to kind of lay low and, well, it is what it is, you know?
Because I was asking in case there are gentlemen out there who have more of that reactionary response, and how if you had come from that place and then had grown into your current chill attitude, because all I've ever known you as is Mr. Chill, and always a smile, right, and always willing to make somebody laugh. So anyway, good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Hey, we've got a question here that I think would be interesting. I'd like to hear you bulls' perspective on this. Cuck Ken on Twitter asks, since this is about male emotions, this is something I've always wondered about bulls. Obviously, bulls do this because they like fucking. But I'm also wondering how much of the satisfaction comes from the cuckolding of men, or in other words, what's the satisfaction of specifically fucking a married woman while they're with their husband's enthusiasm? That's a great question, Ken. I've seen.
It is.
Another.
is.
No, it's the two. That's the full. Part 1 and part 2 there.
So, I know for me, I think my first cuckolding experience was not even. I didn't know it was about to happen. So go ahead.
More liquor, really?
Yes, my love. Woman, chop with the liquor, please.
You've been stuttering a lot on the podcast.
Hey, that's like low fat liquor too.
I'm gonna have to spank my wife on live radio.
Podcast, bro.
Don't make me spank you in front of all of these people. Oh my goodness, you just complained about me. You just gave me like half the bottle. Don't pour it back in there. There's water in there. Don't water down the. Oh my. Everyone, I just want to let you know that Mrs. Mocha is cruising for a spanking over here. Come here.
He's talking himself right out of the crease tonight.
Oh no! Threatening with his spanking. No, that gives points. If I threaten to give her a spanking, that's
gotcha.
I'm sorry. I digress. So when the first time I ever played with a cuckold couple, I didn't even see it coming. To be honest with you, like they didn't give me any warning or anything like that, and like she was their relationship. It was one where she was very verbally abusive. I didn't see it coming. Craig is probably distracted by a bottle of tequila, says sub girl. Actually, sub girl, I'm drinking tequila tonight. I want you to know that. But so with my first experience, I think what made me excited about the cuckolding aspect was, I'd already been into hot wifing. And for me personally, it was always, while playing with her, when it happened, when she stepped into that role, she got super wet and she got super turned on. So for me personally, the turn on when I'm playing with a couple, hot wife or a cuckold couple, for me personally, the turn on is the level of turn on, how turned on the wife is. I know there's a lot of guys who really get off on the humiliation aspect when it comes to the guy. So for me, it's me playing with her and watching how much she gets off on the game that they're playing. So in the situation where I've played with a cuckold couple where the wife wasn't into it, you can tell the husband was trying to force the issue. In that case, then I'm not turned on. So that is a very short-lived thing because for me personally, and that's me personally, she is my main focus. And the bonus is this for me, that the points are to see how aroused she's getting by this interaction. So if it's just a situation where, because we've all, any bull who's dealt with cuckold couples, we've all been in a situation where the cuck is really trying to, push his wife to do things and she's not really fucking into it. She's just there for the dick, but she knows that the cost of her getting dick is to give him his fantasy, which I absolutely respect. And in the situation where they have that conversation with me, then I can still be turned on because I understand that now, like the turn on to me is that she's willing to, be in this because she enjoys, the sensation. I can give her enough for it. So that's my take on that. So if you want to ask the question again and then see what Craig's take on it is.
Right.
She's right. I am stuttering a lot.
You are kind of
fucking tequila.
I appreciate you drinking tequila with me. He had me drink bourbon the first night. I'm not a bourbon guy. I'm a tequila guy. So tonight he said, Chris, I'll drink with you.
Because I'm not a tequila guy.
Tequila. He's not a tequila guy, but he is like in this one. All right. So basically, you like being invited in. You like the energy of being invited into that couple's dynamic as a third party observer and as a third party interactant in their relationship, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a time? And Craig, I'll let you answer this side of the question first. Is there a time where it becomes an extra chore to manage the husband or the cuck's emotions in that? Mr. Mocha, I've heard you say that the most challenging individual in any of this lifestyle relationship is the cuck husband because of that dynamic can be so diverse, right? So, Craig, when you've had a cuck situation, do you have to divert more of your energy to manage the cuck's emotions as well as the woman's emotions?
No, I haven't had a situation where I've had to manage his emotions as much. So I would say, thankfully, I haven't had that situation. You know, I think the thing you have to do is you still have to try and make sure that the cuck is important during the sexual part of it. But I haven't really had a situation where I've had to deal with that. Thankfully, his emotions on everything. You know, I've dealt with some pretty hardcore cucks. I think we all know Herbie and Gemini. But I, you know, like they're a great cuckold couple, but I haven't had to deal with that really. Thankfully. Don't jinx me.
Well, listen, I will. Let me see. Ken just jumped in. Ken is the one who asked the question. So, Ken, you can.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah. I'm just wondering when. So I typed the question a different way in the same thread. I'm just wondering if part of what appeals to you is the fact, leaving aside the kind of dynamic you just discussed, the fact of the cuckold male deferring to you or submitting to you, not physically, but by accepting or even being enthusiastic about, you fucking his wife.
I think
it's like a power thing. I know I'll log off now.
I love the power of the cuckold dynamic. You know, I love taking that power side of it and making it me and her and not, you know, him, you know. And thankfully I'm not a person where the power goes to my head and everything like that, but I love that dynamic of it. And then whether they have reclaiming, I mean, I guess you don't have as much reclaiming with the cuckold couple, but I love taking the powerful side of it and being, you know, and having kind of the head of the table type of thing. If you're a wrestling fan, having the head of the table part of it, of a lot of times over both of them, and not only the cuck, you know, but you know, at times both of you, the husband, I mean me, and then the wife having the power dynamic over him. I do enjoy all of that, but the thing I think you need to, especially with couples that aren't cuckolds, is just oh God, what was it? I just lost my train of thought real fast. You have to remember that you are. No, man, listen, I'm all tequila'd out from my trip to Tahiti. It's so much tequila.
Well, we're catching up for you.
I think. Yeah. Oh, good. Somebody, because I'm drying out, man. I had so much water the last couple of days. But I think as far as a couple that isn't cuckold, you have to remember that you're a lot of times an enhancement to that couple, and not, you know. So it isn't really a power thing. So it's a fine line you got to walk between the cuckold part and the stag vixen or the hot wife couple. It's a fine line you got to walk, because you don't want to offend them in any way, because you're not there to take his place or be powerful over him. You're there just to be as an enhancement, you know? So you got to walk that line.
At what point, Craig, do you figure out what that dynamic is going to be? Is it in the middle of the scene, or does it happen in the interview, the socialization time, beginning before you head to the bedroom?
That's something that's worked out before.
Yeah, that should. Before? Yeah, otherwise shit gets weird.
Not only will shit get weird, but it could get violent too, man. You sitting there, you start talking to somebody who's not a cuckold and saying things that you shouldn't be saying, and man, that could end in some bad ways, you know. So yeah, that's something that you and a lot of times it doesn't even need to be talked about. I don't think, you know, you can get a feel for things. And as to how the husband is acting with things, you know, and if he is a cuckold or maybe he's not a cuckold, but he won't that you don't need to try to act that powerful way with him. The person who is a stag vixen or a wife, there's a completely different demeanor to those husbands than it is to some husbands who are cuckolds. And a lot of that is based upon the conversation before you get to any of the bedroom stuff.
Okay, good.
I think
do you think that sometimes do you think sometimes too that the some bulls in general forget that this is about fantasy and that it's to help fulfill everybody's fantasy, not just the bulls?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Of course. Because I know you guys have talked about it a lot. Everybody doesn't deserve the title of a bull.
Mm-hmm.
And those people who claim to be a bull are some of those people those same people that go to the house wanting to play with somebody that they've only want to play with them, just like Mr. Mocha described, and they don't get that they are an enhancement to the couple's dynamic. Not they can go and get any dude they want, so it's not like you need to know your place with all of that. But I think you're definitely right about that, Ms. Mocha.
I think that anytime you're interacting, as lifestylers, swingers, hot wives, cuckolds, you are interacting with somebody else's partner, their spouse, whatever it may be. And, I think that a lot of these guys, they step into it, like was said earlier, they're thinking about themselves, their own emotions, their own feelings. This is how I want to feel. And I think going back to what Kim was asking, the power, a lot of guys will take that power to their head. Okay, because they've been offered an opportunity where they can step into somebody's bedroom and they can take a measure of control, on the situation. But Chris, the question you ask is, how do you know what type of situation it is? You definitely want to know what you're going into before you do it, because otherwise, nobody's going to be happy. Nobody's going to be happy and then also you can wind up in some uncomfortable situations if you don't have a conversation.
Right.
Like, as a guy going into a situation where you're playing with somebody's wife, you want to set your boundaries and limits right up front, because, a lot of guys step into it and they don't put their boundaries out there. And then, I have the conversation with a guy later, like, oh my God, in this particular, I went and hung out with them and the dude tried to grab my balls. Like, okay, did you talk to him first? You said you're not good with that? Or I've actually had a couple talk to me when I was at Splash, and basically the bull tried to put his dick in the husband's face, and the husband's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, it's like, bro, like that is like, so those conversations have to be had. And then, when you're going back to, who are you thinking about here? You thinking about yourself? Or are you thinking about all three of you? Because no, I'm not saying you're going into a relationship, going into a situation where you're trying to have sex and you're not thinking about your own dick. Because you are thinking about your own dick. And yes, your own dick is first and foremost. However, if you want to enjoy the experience and you want to be able to continue having those experiences, you have to make the pleasure of the people you're playing with just as important. And I think that, there are some people out there who, when I say they can't read the room, that just simply means that they lack the ability to read the emotional state of those who they're playing with. You're looking at a person's face, you're talking to a couple, what energy are you giving off? What energy are they giving off? And, what are you looking for? If I know that I'm going to a situation, I want to enjoy the wife and whatever her role is, however she likes to manage her husband, cool. But I do know a lot of guys who are really in it for the power. They enjoy the power. They like to be able to, boss the husband around. They like to, they want to, have the husband serve them drinks. I mean, you even have, some husbands who go so far as enjoying the physical aspect of it, so it really just depends upon the bull, the type of bull they are, what they're getting off on in this situation, respond to Ken again.
That's those are pretty good answers, guys. I really appreciate you going into that one. I do have another. Go ahead. Who's up?
I was going to ask if I could add something, but if you're going to move on,
Ken, no, please go ahead.
I was thinking more specifically about. So I remember reading on a blog. It may have been Venus's. I forget where it was, but it was about how cuckolding can be like a sort of a kind of the two people submitting together, but obviously only the wife is being physical, and that it's a sense of, well, I mean, Venus talked about this in a couple of her episodes, of the bull sort of defeating the cuck. And it's interesting. I don't know whether that's something, I think that's something a lot of cucks feel.
I'm sorry, I kind of didn't understand that last part. You said the bull doing what? You kind of broke up on my end.
Bull sort of defeating the cuck. Conquering, or whatever the term is.
Right.
And I think that's something a lot of cucks feel, but I don't know whether that's something bulls feel, or if that's not even enters their consciousness.
Oh, absolutely. Once again, everything comes down to two things. What's the cuck looking for? What's the bull looking for? If the cuck wants that, you just have to match yourself up with a bull who is into that. And that's the difference between bulls and guys who, just like to fuck people's wives. If you're a bull is going to be learning what the cuck want is just as important as learning what the wife wants. Both of those things are very important because you're going into an arrangement with two people. You're not going into an arrangement with one person. Oftentimes when you're looking at, a hot wife situation, it's like, all right, dude, my wife is hot. I want you, play with her, pleasure her, and the pleasure is all about her. But honestly, whenever you're dealing with a cuckold situation, even though you're not physically interacting with the cuck, they're still being stimulated. And it's important to make sure that you match up well with the bull that you're looking for. So if you do like, a bull who is going to be a little more degrading, and, all degrading and humiliation is not necessarily extremely verbal. There's different ways to achieve that sensation and that emotion. As a cuck, it's important that through your communication, through your talking, you make sure that the bull that you have is giving you the sensation you want, because there are a lot of cucks out there who are only into mild humiliation. They don't want to feel defeated. They don't want to feel inferior, because there's a big difference from the one who's saying, okay, I want to see you fill my wife with your alpha seed, or the one who the husband just sits and watch and the wife looks over and say, towel, water, drink. There's a huge difference between those two. So I think what you're looking for is there, but you just have to make sure you find a compatible bull. And that's where the conversation comes in, because honestly, oftentimes you'll meet a cuckold couple who are not very upfront about their desires and their fantasies and their long-term goals. What they're doing is they'll see a bull that they really like physically, and she really likes physically. So the cuck wants to be a good cuck and make sure his wife gets what she wants. So they will just kind of, tell the bull what they think he wants to hear. And then you've got a dude who's talking with his dick, who's just telling them what they want to hear. So now you wind up in an actual situation and nobody's actually getting what they want because of lack of communication.
And this brings up a point that Brian James brought up in the threads there. He says he's actually experienced the opposite, where the couple is really only thinking about their pleasure and not even regarding the bull's pleasure in the scene, right? Yeah. So that they find that bull that they like, they're attracted to physically, and they don't care. We're going to create this with this guy because we like his looks, and we don't care how he feels about it or what he's going to get out of that scene. He's literally the stunt cock, if you will.
Yeah.
Anybody, you guys had that?
You always going to have that part of it as well. I mean, it goes both ways. You always going to have that. But do you want to reconnect with those people? I mean, when that experience is over, you may just want to brush them aside and never deal with them again, So, but you always going to have that. It happens at Splash. It happens at all sorts of parties. You always going to have that because, again, you are an enhancement. You are not there for anything other than an enhancement. So for whatever that reason may be, not to say that he can't satisfy his wife or whatever the reason may be, you are only an enhancement. So yes, they don't care about what you feel or think or anything like that. It's just you are the enhancement, and you're just the dick that they need at that time. So again, it's up to you as the bull. Are you going to deal with them again, move on, or whatever?
And Craig, you lead into a bigger question that I really wanted to ask on this. As far as the male emotion, again, was sort of our topic where we started with this. When you run into that couple that really doesn't care about what the bull is, his emotions or feelings in that, you finish the scene. Now you're left. You might not even get the normal high that you would from being intimate in that type of environment. How or has you bulls that let down? There's the emptiness afterwards. The weekend finishes. The meeting of the three of you or the four of you or whatever it is over, and the couple has each other to go home with and to talk it out and relive, and in my case, reclaim, the Minx. We have all of this enhanced intimacy that carries on after our scene, but you guys are left with nothing. Is there an emptiness? And if there is an empty feeling or a loneliness, or if you can describe if any emotion that comes afterwards in a letdown stage, and put a name to it if you could.
Quite honestly, Chris, man, I'm sorry, Mr. Minx. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me if that's the case, because I'm not there. I tell people, man, I'm not there to take your wife. So if I don't have that connection with people and we there just to play, let's get it over with. I can go home. I can get ready for work tomorrow, and I have to deal with this or worried about it again. If you contact me, and you want to get together again, okay, it's easier for me. I don't like dealing with that emotional part of anything with anything, man. Like you said, I'm a very laid back type of person, cool, and I don't want to have any of that drama. I don't want to have any of that beef. I don't have, and not to say I don't do it, but I don't have a lot of relationships where I'm texting wives and saying, I want to see you, this and that. And I don't need that connection, so I'm okay with if that happens. But on the flip side of it, yeah, there are times, and I spoke to Venus about this, that there are times where I'm sitting in my house and I'm like, man, I do wish I had somebody to sleep with tonight. I do wish I had someone that could come over and spend a little time with me. I spend a lot of time by myself, but, I'm okay with it, because when I go out and party and do things, man, I'm all over the place, but I really don't mind it if that happens.
I think until, before I was married, as a single guy, I never felt that way either. And honestly, until the last couple of years, I didn't realize that there were guys out there who were really trying to connect with other people's wives, who were seeking out a couple, who, I want to make you my girlfriend. I didn't really know that was a thing until, a few years back. So, I think from my viewpoint, when I was a single male and I played with couples, I enjoyed being a single male. And, you know, to go back to what Brian was saying, I think that there's a thing when you first meet a couple or you first meet a woman in lifestyle anyway, let's keep it honest. We're both there to please ourselves. If I meet a couple, when I first meet a couple, I first meet a woman, I understand I am just a penis. Now, if at the end of that interaction, I wasn't able to add value to myself, my character, my personality, all of those things, and walk out as a name and someone to see differently, that's really on me. That's me. That's really not them. You know, they can come into the attention of just treating me like a you know, like the fellas say, you know, piece of ass. But if I walk away and that's all I am when I left, that means somehow I didn't bring value to that situation. And it doesn't, contrary to popular opinion, I don't have to talk to a person for 3 weeks to build value. The time it takes for me to speak to your wife, get to your room, the way I interact, you know, because communication is not just verbal, but it's nonverbal. The level of respect I show, the level of attentiveness I show, me understanding how to fall into a role, you know, whether it's a hot wife couple, a cuckold couple, the level that they are after the conversation, you know, all of these things make a difference. All of these things make a difference. You know, I've played with couples where I understand that the husband wants to see this, but he still's a little insecure. So I understand at that point, there's a certain level of hold back that I have to have because he's not emotionally strong as he wants to be, but he's emotionally strong enough to handle this experience. So now I'm going to be balancing her, you know, his emotions, you know, her emotions. I'm going to make sure I have a conversation with him, make him comfortable. So, I mean, if I walk out of a room or walk away from a couple that after I play with them, they only see me as just a quick fuck and they see nothing else about me, that's because that was on me. That means I didn't do something, at least from my standpoint.
That's a very good way of looking at it. Also, I hadn't thought of it as that way, but I like how you phrased that and you said that. I mean, it could be something that I need to think about going forward. But you know, I just again that emotional side of it. You know, I'd rather not deal with it. You know, but you raise a very good point though.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here real quick. Hey, Mr. Mocha, I got to tell you, I don't know how often your podcast goes international, but tonight we have Colombia and Brazil listening in. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Really appreciate that. Hope you're enjoying
Appreciate that, everybody. Thank you.
You guys also have another question on there. I guess Chris is not doing his job.
Was that from Miami 33?
Well,
hold on. Let me scroll down. It's from one couple. How do you all start?
Yes. We were looking at that one, but I was looking for a good segue to bring that in.
Oh, I didn't know that that's what Faces podcast was all about, that we were trying to segue things now.
Listen, you chose not to be down here sitting between the two men. So that being said, we invited you here. We had a chair for you. You know, we're going to touch on you during the podcast, but no.
Mr. Mocha asked me to push him and to keep him on track. So I was giving him a little structure and not letting him go free range on everybody.
And now Mrs. Mocha just throw the grenade in there.
Listen,
I might end up out on the street tonight after all.
That's fine. You just gotta okay, now we're on to the next subject. That's okay. We've never gently ripped a Band-Aid on any of our episodes that I know of. So
get my paddle ready, woman.
We'll blame it on the new guy then.
I'm always good with that.
0 points for you, sir.
One couple's question, if everybody hasn't seen it, they were asking, how did you all start? They play out their fantasy as hot wife, but not with the cuck. We have acted out like we are playing and a stranger is watching, then he encourages her to help the stranger. But the bigger question is, how did we all start? And I think the first simple answer to that is everybody starts in their own way. There's no standard starting off point to joining into the lifestyle and then experiencing all the different facets of it. Angel Minx and I have been in this 19 years. And we started because we met each other on a swinger site. So we both knew our mentality previously and what we were actually interested in. And then that's what we were both kind of seeking in the relationship. It developed over the years, but where we started out and where we are currently is, I mean, I could never have predicted that we are where we are now. It's been a fluid journey that has had lots of offshoots and side adventures, and you can't even imagine all of the things that we had to go try and explore. We wanted to try everything, and then the things we liked, we went back and did again. But it all starts out at that beginning, like you guys are doing. You're already starting it. So you've begun your journey. You just haven't taken the next step. And that next step will come at that point where you feel comfortable together of doing that. And one of you are going to have to break out of that comfort zone and ask to take that risk, right? Hey, let's actually contact somebody. Let's go to a swinger event. Let's join a swinger site and start interacting with people. It can be something simple like that. It doesn't have to be, well, let's have somebody come over and I'll just watch him rail you and kind of figure it out as we go. I would advise not to go that way. Do you have any advice on how you got started? I know, same thing, you were single, and then you found somebody who also was open-minded.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, I was in a lifestyle for years before I met my wife. So, when we got into it, my wife was a wild animal before I met her. So when I introduced the concept to her, she was like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it." So, obviously, everybody's not gonna fall into it like that. But even before we dove right in, we did spend time talking about the fantasies, and, I did have to convince her that I was serious about it. Like, it wasn't a setup. I wasn't trying to test and see if you suck another guy's dick or nothing like that. Let her know that it was a real thing. So exploring your fantasies together to me is a start, because every idea starts with your imagination. The reason we can fucking fly from, Atlanta to New York is because some guy, probably got high and went, I wish I could fly like a bird. And now we got airplanes. The same thing, works with the lifestyle, or getting into the lifestyle. You and your wife start to talk about it. You start to fantasize about it, and here's the thing. Both of you should deal with your jealousy up front. Don't ignore the thought that, we get turned on with the sex part, but understand there's going to be jealousy there, and jealousy is healthy. Jealousy is an emotion. We all have them. It's how we manage them. So, up front, if you want to get into it, when you're fantasizing together, as a dude, I can tell you for a fact, if you start fantasizing with your wife about her fucking another dude, as soon as you bust a nut, now you're saying to yourself, how do I feel about you theoretically fucking somebody else? And instead of you not saying anything, you have that conversation, because oftentimes where couples fail at and where people fail is that, your spouse, your partner's job is to reassure you, because oftentimes the fear is that, this person will have sex with somebody and maybe I'll lose them. Based upon, the fact that you've grown up in a civilized society, most civilized societies look down on swinging. So you have years of civilized society, that tells you this is wrong, this is wrong. Anytime somebody sticks their dick in your wife, it's a bad thing. It's because she's cheating on you. Next thing that comes is divorce and heartache and problems. So now, as soon as you watch your wife get fucked, or as soon as your wife sees you have sex, and there's, oh my God, you start having these emotions. What if he likes her more? What if she likes him more? Now there's going to be divorce and all these different things. So you try your best to get that shit out of the way up front. After you play with the idea, really, really, really think about how you're going to feel. And for a dude, the best time to ask yourself that question is after you bust a nut, because all of the fantasies that you have, as soon as you nut, even if you and your wife aren't actually actively fucking another person, as soon as he busts his nut, all of that, oh yeah, I want to see you get fucked, all of that shit goes away. Now your higher senses have kicked back in and you're going, do I really want to see her get fucked?
That's exactly where we started tonight, right? Pre-nut brain and post-nut brain, right? Yeah. Pre-nut brain, that is emotional, driven, and it doesn't make clear decisions, right? Post-nut, or maybe 15 to 20 minutes post-nut, when your brain reboots and you're back to thinking your own self. Talk about it. There's Jack Diesel pointed out, he says communication is the key. When you're starting down this journey, it can't be to try and save your relationship. This needs to be a journey that you're taking because you are solid, you are together, and you might be a little bored. You might want to live out that fantasy, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to that communication. That's what you're going to find the best part about any of your lifestyle journey will be, is that open sharing and communication that you can have with this partner, this person who has pledged themselves to be your partner in whatever form that takes, right? So, however you start to do it, there's no rhyme or reason. Just make sure that you're doing that with open minds and open hearts and clear communication with each other.
And here's the thing, guys, and I want to say this. This is where the emotion plays for both of you. When you open the fantasy door, you have no idea what the fuck is going to come out of your partner's chest. You have no idea. Because I can't tell how many guys I've talked to, they're like, oh, my wife would never want to get gangbanged by 17 dudes. No, your wife is going to say she don't want to get gangbanged by 17 dudes because she know you can't handle it. Or, the wife is like, oh, my wife would never want to fuck some 23-year-old girl he met at the swingers club. No, because he's fucking smart and he knows he shouldn't do it. So the best thing for a couple is go ahead, when you have these conversations, allow your partner to be honest. Your partner, when they open the fantasy door, they may say some shit that you're like, what the fuck? And you can't make the face, you can't get offended, you can't make them feel bad. Oh, when your husband wants to fuck a woman that looks nothing like you, okay, don't get offended. When your wife wants to fuck, the best thing, the thing that cracks me up the most when I'm looking on like SDC or different swinger sites, or I'm talking to people, is the one where the husband literally puts on there, my wife doesn't like big cock. No, your wife is smart. And she's going to cater to your insecurities because she wants to be able to have a good time and play in the lifestyle. But you mean to tell me your wife does not want anything bigger than you because one more inch will completely destroy her? Get the fuck out of here. All right. What are you doing? Like, we know that your wife is smart. She's trying to save your ego. Don't put your partner into that situation, because now you're making your partner lie to you. You're making your partner hold back, and a lot of the problems that you have down the road is because you have forced your partner. You've taken your partner's ability to be honest and share their true fantasies away. Like, I wish I could be Michael Jordan. That doesn't mean I'm a be Michael Jordan. And your husband or your wife may have some super out of the way fantasy, and you do have the right to go, honey, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay. But I'm glad you told me. And maybe in a few years from now, once we get some experience, we can do that. Instead of, oh my God, that's fucking disgusting. Now you just told your spouse, don't be fucking honest with you. So don't make that mistake.
You kind of look at it like a gift, right? You're giving her the gift of true honesty where she can express her true desires. Don't repress a woman who is on the verge of opening up her mind and defeating the societal rules that she's grown up with, right? If she's even starting to turn the corner to consider allowing this type of activity in your relationship, man, don't stifle that by putting your ego and your opinions on what she's going to like and not like. This is your opportunity really to learn, especially at your spouse, who you're supposed to be the ultimate knowledge of, right? What turns her on, really? Because maybe you never got that when you were dating or knew what she was like before, right? There's another question that's come up here real quick. Another couple asked, what is a good place for a married couple to take that next step and explore the lifestyle? They're trying to go to a mature, comfortable level as beginners. And I think that's, again, a very individualized question, because it's what you guys are comfortable with. But as you start to do the research, there are a lot of great websites out there. SLS, swinglifestyle.com is a good one. SDC, Cassidy, Lifestyle Lounge. I know when I met the Minx, we were up in Northern Virginia. The most prevalent site in our community up there was called Alt Playground, and that's the site that we actually met on. So if you look in your own area and see if you want to get involved in the lifestyle within your own community, that's going to be the most convenient and easiest opportunity for you to find that the subculture, the underground, if you will, and go to a party and check it out and see what it's doing. But if you're also very concerned about your personal reputation in your community, we have friends who lived in a very small town, and they went on a national broadcast and they got outed in their very small community, and it made life very difficult for their family. So you got to assess that. Well, then you can use these sites and you can look at parties that are out of your state or on the other side of the country even. Splash Mocha goes to Houston. Splash Mocha goes to Florida. There's a lot of different lifestyle parties, hotel takeovers, where you can just dip your toe in the pool, start to engage people. Listen to the podcasts that are out there. O-Face podcast, Keys and Anklets podcast, Venus Cuckoldress has a great podcast, Doc Chocolate, the Bulls and Queens podcast. You can go on any of your favorite podcast platforms and find all kinds of information and resources that can help guide you in starting out your journey in that beginner. We were all beginners once, and you see how much fun it is because we're all still in it.
Yeah.
Anybody add anything to that answer?
I mean, Mr. Diesel, he kind of took my smoke for what I was going to say. I mean, I think that the first thing you need to do is need to work on yourself as a couple. And then, Chris, you said this as well. If you're doing it to try and save your marriage, then you fucked. You know, if you're doing it as an enhancement to things, the best thing to do is to communicate with each other and make sure that you are on the same page. The people that I know that have the best relationships in this are couples that have communicated, and they communicate very well with things. You know, they know everything that's going on with the other one. I know a lot of couples that sit down and debrief, you know, so like you see like on social media, people are like, I don't care if you message her because she tells me at the end of the night. You know, so as long as you have that communication with yourself, I think that's the thing you need to do before you reach out and look for certain avenues, is to make sure that everything in your marriage is solid and you communicate well and you're getting along well. And then you can branch out small places, you know, websites, check out a website and see if you can get to a party or something like that. But I think starting small is the big thing. But then again, on the other hand, I do think Splash Mocha is a place where it's a great place to go because you meet so many lifestyle veterans who can kind of walk you along that straight path, you know, and there's no pressure for anything. You know, you can come on a day pass or a night pass. I would suggest that first before anything, and see how you like the environment. But you're going to meet a lot of people who could walk you along that path and say, hey, this is what you should look at. This is what you can try. If you're not comfortable with this, then, you know, no, we don't have to do that. You know, there's no pressure at all in any way to do anything. So it might not be such a bad step to try a party that on that large type of scale.
And you'll find most couples do like to share their origin story, is kind of the term. Like, I know that's one of my personal favorites. When I go to a party and I meet somebody new, I always like, tell me your origin story. Who amongst the two of you got you into this? Because it really fascinates me when it's the woman that does, right? A lot of times it's the guy, but when it's the woman, it's like, oh no, she came to me with the fantasy. And I'm like, good for you. Good for you, sir. that you recognized what an opportunity she was bringing you, and you watered that little seed that she put out there and start letting that blossom into me meeting you here today and listening to your origin story. So those are always fun too.
I also think that it depends on what you're looking for in a lifestyle. Like, you know, are you soul swappers? So you're new, so I'll say this. Are you soft swappers? That means, you know, are you just interested in maybe, you know, making out, touching, blowjob, no penetration? You know, are you in hot wifing? Are you in the cuck holding? Because that's gonna determine what direction you want to go into. You know, as far as your first experience, like Chris said, getting on a website is a good thing because, you know, a swinger or a lifestyle website's a great idea because most of these people are already active. And also, the worst thing you can do to yourself is pretend like you know what the fuck you're doing. Okay. When you tell people that you're new, they're going to either A, say, hey, you're a rookie, no thank you, or they're going to go, oh my God, you're new, let me walk you through this. They're going to be a lot more patient. They're going to be more apt to explain things because, you know, you'll hear people use terminology that they have no idea what they're using. I'll say this. When I first got into the lifestyle, the second website I got on was SDC. Now, I didn't know lifestyle terminology. I thought back in the day at SDC, it said they ask you what the things you're into. You know, are you into group sex? Are you into, you know, threesomes? Are you into water sports? And I saw water sports, and I'm like, oh man, I love jet skis. It was a long time later that I realized they were talking about getting pissed on. And when I found out, I'm like, oh my God, no, I'm not into that, you know. So, you know, don't be afraid to go into it and not actually know something because then, you know, you got somebody who's like, so you're into water sports. Yeah. Like, wait, no, jet skis, you know. So, you know, depending upon what you're into, I think that's going to help. If you are into hot wifing, it's going to be a lot easier to speak to a guy online, interact, have a conversation. You know, don't be afraid to say, hey, let's meet for a drink and talk. We're new at this. So if it works out, and if you have a guy who's going to be patient enough to do that, you can do that. If you're looking for couples, then, you know, to me, it's a great idea to go to a swingers club and just watch. Go to a swingers club and just watch, sit back, be entertained, watch how other people interact, and you get to see it firsthand. You know, that's just my opinion.
I think when this is good advice, but I think also when you do that, you need to realize that it's not an absolute. So because you start out with one way, I know a lot of people, and I'm sure you all know a lot of people that started out one way. They started out full swap only. Or they started out as yes, the male will play, and then they evolve once they get deeper into the lifestyle and realize that didn't work for us. Mm-hmm. So just because you start out one way, you need to keep an open mind and say, hey, you know, maybe this is what we like at this point, or this is what we're looking for. But, you know, let's keep an open mind because that all could change once we start down that road.
Absolutely.
Indy Vixen also had that same comment, Greg. She said it's a change. We all evolve in this lifestyle.
Yes. For real. Yeah. Yes. We do.
You know, the entrance is, I mean, you're going to be in a far, far different place from when you enter the lifestyle to where we are all now, where we're, you know, 20 plus years in the game. Like, you're not the same person. Because we are all the sum total of all of the experiences and the emotional ups and downs that we've experienced to this day. So the person you were 20 years ago in the lifestyle and the person you are now is completely different. You know, your entrance into the lifestyle, you know, is a big thing. And then more than anything, understand the lifestyle is something that's custom to you and your spouse. is completely customized to you and your spouse. Your desires are going to be your desires, your fantasies are your fantasies. So, you know, Mrs. Mocha and I, the way we play, you know, although it may be close to someone else's, it's not the exact same thing. Your experience is a completely customizable experience. And that's why it's important for you to know your spouse's fantasies, because between the two of you, you can work on achieving them. And don't allow somebody else in the lifestyle to tell you what's the right way to lifestyle, because oftentimes, just like in the regular world, people will put their personal restrictions on your experience if you allow them. Oh no, you know, you don't want to, you know, fuck too many people because people are going to judge you. Go fuck yourself. This is what you're here for. You're going to fuck as much as you want, you know, because you're going to have those people. You know, we've had people come to the party. You know, Mrs. Mocha, she cracked me up. She was like, do you know that one lady said, you know, she only fucked 4 guys, but she wanted to fuck more, but she didn't want to seem, you know, she didn't want to seem like I'm not sure she said seem like a slut, or
she didn't want anybody to look down on her.
Yeah, look down on
too
her.
Many guys, right?
Mind you, after my wife had just fucked 15. And all of the girls at the party had fucked 15 plus. And she's like, girl, what's wrong with you? You see how everybody's fuck? You don't let people determine your lifestyle experience.
We have a friend, Salacious Scarlett, and she runs a ladies' sexual empowerment group called the Slut Sisters that deal just with that, overcoming those archetypal roles that society puts on the women to control them, and helps women understand that it's okay and slut is not a bad name. It keeps saying that there's more replies, but I don't see
this
replies
right
coming in. So
is this it on the screen?
Yeah, we've already talked about that one.
Okay.
Everything that you have on the screen we've already covered.
Oh.
But I keep getting new replies, but I think it's people liking some of the comments that are coming in.
Well, Mrs. Mocha is clearly not, you know, being our tech person. So
and you didn't make me a co-host again tonight, so I'm not seeing these real time. Like
you got a whole screen in front of you, like you got the whole screen.
Moving the cursor for. So then, how am I supposed to advance it? It's not a touch screen, and I'm 6 feet away from that little tiny screen that you put up there in front of me. It is an improvement over last night because you didn't unplug my headphones.
Each time I get a little better. Okay, a little better each time.
Each time we get a little better.
Well, I fuck up a little less this time. I gave you the screen, but I didn't give you the mouse. Next time you get the mouse.
Next time I get the mouse. How about that?
Well, listen, guys. I mean, I enjoy when we get on one topic. You know, the male emotion is a big thing, and from that one topic, so many different things spring out, you know, and pop up, and so many different scenarios and things like that. I've said it. You know, I said it in the beginning. I've said it the last few episodes. You know, it's very important for us to address the male emotion because it's something that goes unnoticed. It's something that's it's not paid attention. You know, no one pays attention to it. And that's just because as men, you know, we go through life saying suck it the fuck up. That's just what it is. You know, like think about it. Like how many times in your entire life have you seen a dude cry and you hug him? Like if a dude start crying next to you, it's the most awkward shit in the world. Like you don't know, dude. It's awkward. Now, I've seen a million times where if 2 women are standing next to each other and one starts crying, there's nothing weird about putting an arm around her, talking to her. And we're not just talking about the tears. We're just talking about the emotional assist. And, you know, it's quite often that we wind up hearing people complain about the things that happen in a lifestyle. And oftentimes it's because you have guys who can't manage their emotions, whether it's husbands, whether it's single guys, you know, they can't manage the emotion. They can't deal with rejection. You know, they're too insecure to come and speak. You know, there's just so many things that have to be dealt with. And you know, a few months ago, a friend of ours shined a light on a situation where it's like, hey, guys in the lifestyle need to be able to go and speak to other guys and get assistance and get help. And for a guy to go and tell another dude, look, man, I need help with this problem that's stressing me out. You know, that's a heavy thing. Like
it is. Yeah.
a serious thing.
It is. It is.
And ignoring it can be very detrimental. Confronting it and giving that support or encouraging that individual to work through that emotion, because it's going to come out. And that's what we kind of talked about in our first 2 episodes, that emotion will come out no matter how much he tries to stifle it. And it can be detrimental to everybody in the room if it's explosively comes out. So that's the
Unhealthy as fuck.
Unhealthy as fuck. Thank you for summing it up perfectly. Yeah. So,
you know, I think people there's been a little bit of progress made, you know, about guys showing emotions and mental health, especially in men. You know, but you think back and there's people that have said things and admitted they've had emotional problems, and, you know, prominent people, athletes, I'm thinking especially, and, you know, they've been ridiculed for it. You know, so I think that stepped us back a little bit, but, you know, it's a little bit better than what it used to be. I mean, you look at a person like Meta World Peace who's sitting there, he's saying he's got problems and he's got emotional problems, and you can see that the man has problems. But, you know, he was looked at as a problem instead of looking at why he was having problems, you know. So, but you hit it spot on again, man. You know, the only time I can think about where I've seen a man really release his emotions and cry was at a funeral or some sort of a tragedy.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just you can't do that as a man, and we should be able to release the same way a woman can.
Yeah, and think about how, like, I got called out like the other day. So the first podcast we did, I shit you not, this is how much of a knee-jerk reaction it is for one man to ridicule another man's emotions. We can't help it. How many times there's not a dude on here at some point did not see some other guy have an emotional reaction like he acting like a little bitch, and then everybody laughs. Like, there's no dude here who hasn't done that. It's a knee-jerk reaction. And so, like,
but we were talking about you need to be supportive of that and not call the guy a little bitch
and I
make
fucking
him
failed.
feel insignificant.
I failed.
And then he did on the first podcast. He did it right there.
Fucking failed.
But before I could call him out on it, because he knew I was looking at him, he could feel my eyes.
I could feel it.
He cut me off, and he's like, "Man, I'm going to call myself out as a hypocrite. I just did what I said don't do."
That's because the whole left side of my body was starting to flame up because Chris was staring at me like, "You piece of shit." You piece of shit. And I don't even remember what it was that I was like, this fucking emotional ass bitch. And then I'm like, fuck. I just did it. We're literally having a conversation about not judging the dude and so a dude has an emotional reaction that I can't comprehend, and all of a sudden I'm calling him a bitch, and Chris is staring at the side of my head like he about to throw a cup at it, and I'm like, okay, I fucked up.
I do want to mention in here too, because we do have some new couples or couples that are considering venturing into this. The male emotion that they're going through when they feel they're alone in starting out this journey. I want my wife to do this. I've had this conversation. She's interested in it, but they're inside. They're like, this was not how I was raised. This is not what is not right. One of the things I can tell you is by stepping into this community, and you're going to find this circle of trusted people, as Sir Doyle Walters just typed in there. That circle of trusted people becomes a brotherhood, because no longer do you have to feel that these emotions you're going through and you're wrestling with are abnormal, and you're not weird, because you're now with people that you can talk about them with and say, man, when I see her do this, it makes me have these butterflies in the pit of my stomach. And I don't know if that's jealousy or if that's envy or if that's anger. I can tell you exactly what that is, and here's why you're feeling it, and here's what's good about it, and here's the negative sides of it, right? You're joining into a community where you can actually bring up these emotions and talk about these with us guys, other males, right? And again, that's sort of why Mr. Mocha wanted to start down this road to this topic, because as senior members in this lifestyle community, we need to mentor the new guys coming in, regardless of the age, and bring them along into this glorious world that we live in and that we interact in, and show them the highs and the lows of it. But that at the end of the day, their emotions are not weird or abnormal, and they can be themselves.
Yeah. Amen to that. Yeah. I mean, I'm
getting off my soapbox now.
Listen, I mean, that's what you're supposed to be. That's a good place. And I have to say, the second day we've hung out for a couple of hours. And before we wrap up, I've got to thank, Sub Girl. I know Don Boy's back there starting shit somewhere, I'm sure, for jumping in.
He hasn't been blowing me up tonight, so.
We'll give him a hard time in a minute. See so many of our friends, Ginger Fire, one of my favorite people. Sir Walter Doyle, that's like family. He's right here in town. Next time you're in town, he's gonna have to come and hang out.
He'd be great to have on.
Super intelligent and has great perspective on the male emotion. Him and I have spent a lot of time talking about that in general. Everybody else who jumped in and joined the conversation, Ken, thank you. Mr. Diesel who commented, everybody who commented, we really appreciate that. The input, the things that we can share with other people is because the perspectives, the experiences, it makes it better for us. I mean, I was saying earlier how many mistakes I made when I was young in the lifestyle. And if we can help a few people avoid some of those mistakes, whether it's, single guys making your journey better and making couples' journeys better, or, couples, if, my experience in the lifestyle with my wife has been the most amazing thing in my life because my wife is so amazing, and I'm not just saying that because she's probably listening.
And you're trying to get something.
And I'm trying to get some ass. I'm not just saying that for that reason, because all the people that know my wife knows that she's definitely the better half of us. But, I want to make sure that those people out there who come to the lifestyle do understand that you can come into the lifestyle and have an amazing relationship, but, managing those emotions, women are happy to talk about their emotions. Fellas, we don't. So that's why we're on it. Thank everybody for joining us. Craig, you want to jump in there before we wrap it up?
Yeah, I just want to say hello to my friends. I got several people from that I met this past week in Hito. That I met this week in Hito. They decided a few of them joined in, and I thank you to my people from the corner. You listened. Thank you again. It was a pleasure being on. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
And please, everybody who's listening, be kind enough to follow us. Keep in mind, we do air these episodes anywhere you get your podcast, Apple, Google, Spotify, all that good stuff. Chris Minx, thank you for being on. Chris is going to be hanging out with us more often. He's too bored these days. So I was like, something, Chris, we're going to find you something to do. You're just having way too much fun without me. So I'm going to pin you down and make sure you come and hang out with me. So that's what we're going to be doing. Chris?
Hey, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in, getting down and being able to do this in person and see all the information coming out and all the people, those new people that were asking your questions tonight and stuff like that. Follow the people that you see on the wall there. My mentoring couples, Subgirl, Vixen, I see them in the room. Thanks, guys, for supporting me and everything. You'll just get so much knowledge as you continue to hang with us. We look forward to continuing with this journey. Thank you, everybody.
Until next time, thank you for joining Old Faces, and we'll see you again soon.